I'm going to make a suggestion for this reading of the poem. Sometimes you can put people to sleep if you just read.
Okay.
So if you like, you tell me. I can either read it straight through, or I can read it, and if there's something that lights you up, we can stop and talk about it.
Okay, let's do that. That
You
sounds
like that way?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. And as well, if you're reading and you have the idea to unpack something, we welcome that as well.
Okay, very good.
Good.
I'm going to say something before I even start. The criticism by scholars of this poem is that Parmenides was not a very good poet.
Okay.
Just keeps repeating himself. He says things over and over the same thing, and it's not good poetry. Well, Peter Kingsley was looking at it and saying, that's because you don't understand that what this is an incantation. Okay. So hear that as I'm reading it and feel that you're being called by the goddess, and you're hearing this faint call, and you're being carried by her come hither voice.
Okay.
The mares that carry me as far as longing can reach rode on. Once they had come and fetched me onto the legendary road of the divinity that carries the man who knows through the vast and dark unknown. And on I was carried as the mares, aware just where to go, kept carrying me, straining at the chariot, and young women led the way.
So you can even see, so the road, the legendary road of the divinity is the road to death, the road follows. So this is an
To
initiatory door, life, death, rebirth, initiatory. He's going to Tartarus and returning, right? Which very few can
Only
do.
the psychopomp can do that.
And,
I'm also getting from this, like, which is so absent these days, but like the revering and honoring and presencing of the feminine. He's being carried into the unknown,
Yes.
availing himself to it, letting the mares carry him. You know, like that's so different than how it is these days.
You could even see it as being carried through the birth channel.
right.
Yes.
I just got that hit, that, you know.
And the women who guide are called the daughters of the sun.
Mhm.
He meets nothing but goddesses on this journey, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
At the portals, but yeah. So this is worth. This is
And
a lot
this
of fun.
brings in the senses now. And the axle in the hubs let out the sound of a pipe blazing from the pressure of the two well-rounded wheels at either side, as they rapidly led on. Young women, girls, daughters of the sun, who had left the mansions of night for the light and pushed back the veils from their faces with their hands.
So the axle sound is a shrinks, which is the instrument invented by Hermes
Mhm.
after he invents the lyre and gives it to Apollo for the shepherds. So it's this shrill sound. So this sound of the axle is this sound of moving into the underworld. A lot of people hear sounds, tones in meditations and things like that.
Yeah, so I think it's also, you could associate it with chakras, have different tones.
So the axle wheel sound is also the sound of, and we'll get to is the doors between the worlds.
There are the gates on the pathways of night and day, held fast in place between the lintel above and the threshold of stone. They reach right up into the heavens, filled with gigantic doors. Now there's an uplift already. And the keys that now open and now lock are held fast by justice, she who always demands exact returns. And with soft, seductive words, the girls cunningly persuaded her to push back immediately, just for them, the bar that bolts the gates. And as the doors flew open, making the bronze axles with their pegs and nails spin, now one, now the other, in their pipes, they created a gaping chasm. Straight through and on the girls held fast their course for the chariot and horses, straight down the road.
The justice is a goddess in Greece. Metis they're all goddesses
Mhm.
that eventually get downgraded.
And the goddess welcomed me kindly and took my right hand in hers and spoke these words as she addressed me. Welcome, young man, partnered by immortal charioteers, reaching our home with the mares that carry you. For it was no hard fate that sent you traveling this road, so far away from the beaten track of humans, but rightness and justice. And that's what's needed for you to learn all things, both the unshaken heart of persuasive truth and the opinions of mortals, in which there is nothing that can truthfully be trusted at all.
Okay, that just feels so, that section, because what even persuasive truth, I was like, why does truth need to be persuaded
Right.
if it's true?
Self-evident.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then it went into humans, which then everything goes awry from there.
Right, everything.
Hello, Earthlings. Quick interruption to remind you to click that subscribe button, to like, to share, to comment. You have no idea how helpful your comments are for me in encouraging the algorithm to give me more reach. As well, click that bell so that you will be notified of my every next video. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled mind expanding awesomeness.
And this is something that Kingsley talks about also. In fact, I was just interesting. I just, Cynthia Chung, who's with Mount Erich, she's Canadian scholars. They're getting a lot of play these days, and they do some
You may find
interesting
them
work.
interesting.
Okay.
But she did this whole thing on Plato. But anyway, the sophists get a really bad name, and that's the understanding of persuasive truth. Because the sophists taught rhetoric, persuasion,
It's like parcel
Right.
tongue.
right? And they get this name because they're considered like, whatever, like the great propagandist. And you can see that, the rhetoricians of today exemplified, in bullshit speech on 9/1 by Biden
Oy vey.
or whatever it was.
No words.
Right, but this is the
Really no
continuation
words.
of why they don't like the sophists.
Mhm.
Whereas if you understand the classical training was the quadrivium and the trivium,
Mhm.
and the trivium was rhetoric, grammar, oh shit, what's the
Music.
third one. No.
No?
The trivium,
Ratio?
rhetoric, grammar,
Okay.
and it'll come to me. Anyway,
Somebody knows.
so this is what these people
If only
taught.
we were live.
Oh, we're not live. Oh,
We're
well.
not live.
Oh, well, in the comments section.
Was it logic?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yay,
Yes.
Danny.
Logic. So this is Persephone that's doing the talking here, though she's not named often in the ancient world because she didn't like to be named.
Mhm.
Well, because that's the mystery.
Right. So there's just
So
called
you don't lift your skirts.
yeah,
you know?
Thea, Thea. Thea is how she's addressed.
Okay.
But even so, this too you will learn, how beliefs based on appearance ought to be believable as they travel all through all there is. I will do the talking, and it is up to you to carry my words once you have heard them. What I will tell you is which roads of inquiry and which roads alone exist for thinking. This is where you have to follow it. Experience.
Will you repeat that last part again? Which
Mhm.
roads alone?
Mhm.
Okay.
Right, because the words, they kind of twist and
Yeah.
right. And you really need to don't resist them, fold with them.
Right.
You can, okay? I will do the talking and it is up to you to carry away my words once you have heard them. So you give voice to my words.
Mhm.
What I will tell you is which roads of inquiry and which roads alone exist for thinking. Now, we don't know what she means by thinking. For thinking.
Right.
Okay, so that's a little, okay, so we have to put that on the shelf and just trust
And I
that.
don't know the Greek word offhand.
Right, because it's like road for inquiry, which I initially thought was thinking. Then I'm realizing, oh, maybe that's curiosity.
Yes.
and questioning in more of an engaging factor
Yes.
versus thinking, which
Yes.
is more of a solo
Well,
undertaking.
But
Right.
for understanding, like you inquire because please, I don't understand. Please, can you say more?
right.
Right.
And also under the understanding that she is also saying, I'll do the talking, you bring this back, and you don't mess with my words.
Right.
Oh, don't ever change the word. Don't, do not. And which roads alone exist for thinking? So there were two different roads. One is for
Right.
inquiry and one is for pondering, thinking. Maybe that's what you
Well,
need to
She gets into it.
digest.
Mhm.
She
What's
does.
in
She explains more.
The one route that is and is not possible not to be
Okay.
is the way of persuasion.
No. It's not. Okay, good. Sorry.
For persuasion is truth's attendant.
This is so mind-blowing right now because I automatically equate persuasion with propaganda.
Well, maybe not always.
Yes and no. It's a let's just say it's a downgrading of it. So instead of propagandizing for the real, you're propagating for.
Have you
Yeah,
ever tried to
influence.
have a persuasive argument or discussion even where you're trying to persuade for the argument of good?
I
In
mean,
other
I think
words-
now I'm thinking it's what I do all the time. It's my every book or video.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
Right.
I am persuading.
So let's
Exactly,
read it
exactly.
again.
So you're it's like being an advocacy for truth.
Right.
Okay, so let's read it again now with our maybe correct understanding of it. We don't know. The one route that is and is not possible not to be is the way of persuasion. For persuasion is truth's attendant. And as for the other, that is not and is necessary not to be. This I can tell you is a path from which no news returns.
And did this writing predate the printing press?
Oh,
A little bit.
what?
Well,
What? It
it-
was BC.
He's Parmenides is a generation before Socrates, and probably more, even though Plato has a dialogue called the Parmenides, and he has Socrates as a young man meeting Parmenides. Parmenides would have been too old for that for most people's, and that's a whole other story of how Plato, in a sense, co-opts Parmenides.
Mhm.
He's like saying, no, I'm the big dog now.
Mm. But it would
So-
also speak to the need for persuasion. If we don't have books, if everything's transmitted orally,
Yes.
then
Yes.
that's on us
Yes.
to be, to refine
Well,
our,
that's why you have debates,
yes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Even the Tibetans, they have their debates and then when they're done,
yeah.
they put a cap on it. All right, that's period at the end
Yeah.
of my sentence.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm firm on that.
yeah, and Plato eventually, in was it the Meno? No, I can't remember which dialogue, but he condemns writing. Saying it's not it's just memorization now. And he goes through and he has this king argue with Hermes Thoth, who's the inventor of writing, and he calls him Thuth, Thuth, in this dialogue, and says, nah, this is no gift. What's writing for? It's just going to mess up everything. Well, Plato would be like, is barely an asterisk in history if he wasn't writing. Everything
Right.
is right. So Plato is sly too. Plato's playing, you got to read Plato, not on the surface level. You got to try to figure out what he's really getting at.
Mhm.
And so he's condemning writing at the same time as he's completely and absolutely dependent on it.
Is it like a Fight Club thing? Like I'm going to say no a zillion times until you develop the strength to challenge me on that?
Well, no one, I don't know. No one challenges Plato on that. Everyone that just bows to Plato, and in fact, I lost a friend who wrote a book on the golden mean because I have a very different reading of Plato's Cave than pretty much anyone else. So, and he hasn't talked to me since. Or just like,
Isn't that so crazy when we lose friends just because we think
I'll
about
bet he
things
doesn't even
differently?
remember it. How much you want to bet?
I hope that's the case.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so then
It wasn't really that
then
old,
it's
Dirk.
me.
I think it's you. to be honest.
Okay.
It's your
I'll
problem.
cop to that.
Okay.